Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, something that I've noticed is that people who make a lot of money are often the worst with money. I mean, over 50% of six-figure earners are living paycheck to paycheck, and over 60% of millennials earning six figures are living paycheck to paycheck. And although the statistic might sound absurd, the more you think about it, the more you realize that this kind of makes sense. The idea of six-figure earners living paycheck to paycheck isn't as crazy as it sounds, because wealth in itself can be a trap. Oftentimes when you start to make more money, your world starts to close in on you, and you're almost forced to spend more money and live this paycheck to paycheck life. And so in this video, I want to explain exactly why I think so many six-figure earners are living paycheck to paycheck. And when you understand why, you can avoid making these same mistakes as you start to make more money in your life and create a better relationship with your finances. Now, the first money trap that six-figure earners make is thinking that because you make a lot of money, you're good at managing money. Oftentimes when people make a lot of money, they think that they're good with money. However, this is something called a fallacy. And a fallacy is something that sounds right, but it's not. For example, you might think a great writer would be a great teacher of writing. However, being good at writing and being good at teaching are two completely different things. Just because you're good at writing doesn't mean that you would be good at teaching writing. And this is the same concept with money. Making money and managing money are two completely different things. And many six-figure earners are very good at making money, but many of them are really bad with managing money. Many six-figure earners don't budget. They live above their means, and they're very materialistic, which creates a lot of financial problems and forces them to live paycheck to paycheck. I heard this quote by Dave Ramsey that when you can't earn your way out of a spending problem. It doesn't always matter how much money you're making, but it matters more how much money you're spending. And so many six-figure earners are living paycheck to paycheck because they never take the time to get good at managing money. So in your own financial life, don't always just focus on making money, but also focus on learning the skills of how to manage your money. And the second money trap is losing track of expenses. The ironic thing about making a lot of money is that as you start to make more, your financial life becomes harder to control because as you start to make more money, it doesn't seem as necessary to watch over every single dollar you spend, and so you easily lose track of how much you're spending. For example, when people start making six figures, they start eating out more, they start taking on new payments, and they start upgrading things. And over time, these small expenses start to compound and you start to notice that you're having less money. And you sit down to see where your money's going and you notice that your expenses have increased drastically. Many six-figure earners don't pay attention to how much money they're spending because they think that they can afford everything, and that attitude forces them to live paycheck to paycheck. Making more money can be a dangerous thing because it's very easy to lose track over how much you're spending. So don't ever think that there will be a point financially where you no longer have to worry about how much money you're spending because you can live paycheck to paycheck even on six figures. And the third money trap to avoid is being locked in luxury. Now, as you get older and you start to make more money, you move through different phases of life. And normally in each phase, your standards increase, your expectations increase, and your tolerance decreases. Now let me show you how this works by showing you what often happens when people go through adulthood. Now oftentimes our first phase in adulthood is going to college. And at this phase, you probably have very little money. So you live in a college dorm, eat basic foods, and drive an old car. The next phase is when you get your first adult job, maybe making a $40,000 salary. So you get a basic apartment, you can afford to eat out every now and then, and you get a more reliable car. Finally, you move up in your career and you start making a $100,000 salary. So you move to a luxury apartment, eat out regularly, and get a new car. And once you move on to each life phase, it's harder to go back to older phases. And the problem that six-figure earners have that keeps them living paycheck to paycheck is they don't move through each phase consciously. They start having this very expensive, luxurious quality of life. And once they realize they can't afford it, they're not willing to go back to a lower standard of life. They become locked in luxury. There's nothing wrong with upgrading your life and trying to raise your standards, but it's important to know that once you move on to the next level of life, it is very hard to go back. So don't make the mistake of moving through life in an unintentional way, because if you reach this point of having an extremely luxurious life that you no longer can afford, it can be very hard to go back. You can become locked in luxury, and that can keep you poor. And the fourth money trap is living in a bubble. When people start to make more money, they normally start to do and get involved with different things that cost more money. For example, they might move in a luxury apartment, or they might join a CrossFit gym, or they might start golfing. And one thing they probably don't realize about choosing to do these different, more expensive activities is that once you do them, your world starts to close in on you, because these various expensive activities only attract one type of person, and that's rich people. And so you might start golfing at the country club and meet other people who make a lot of money. And then you start doing things with these people that involve spending more money. You start to live in this bubble where everyone around you makes a lot of money, and all these people want to do are expensive things that involve spending a lot of money. Whereas when you make less money, you generally surround yourself with a more diverse group of people, and you do more down-to-earth things because people don't have tons of money to spend. And when you live in this bubble where you surround yourself with other high income earners, it can be hard to keep up because all these people want to do is spend money and do expensive things, which can force even a six-figure earner to live paycheck to paycheck. We need to be conscious of the lifestyles we choose and the activities we choose to do, because if we choose to do certain activities, it can trap us in a bubble and really hurt us financially. And the final money trap to avoid is not knowing any different. I have a confession to make, ladies and gentlemen. Last week, I unfortunately turned 30 years old. I am no longer in my 20s. But one thing I really came to realize in the decade of my 20s is that you are who you are. I think that our beliefs and values of how we live our lives and how we choose to spend our money get cemented in childhood. And what we do and what we learned in childhood often roll over to adulthood. For example, if your childhood consisted of living in a modest house and doing simple things, then when you're an adult, you'll probably live in a modest house and do simple things. But if your childhood consisted of living in a big house and spending money, when you're an adult, you'll probably want to do luxurious things and spend more money. And I think that so many six-figure earners are living paycheck to paycheck because they've been conditioned from an early age to seek happiness through spending money and stuff. And they're unable to see how these choices are harming them more than they're helping them. They just don't know any better, ladies and gentlemen. But instead, if they understood that these decisions that are forcing them to live paycheck to paycheck are hurting them more than helping them, they might choose to live a more modest lifestyle and seek enjoyment from simple things. And it's important to know, when it comes to money and personal finance, it's not always about how much you make, but it's about the choices that you make in life. Because even six-figure earners earners are living paycheck to paycheck when they make the wrong choices. And if we can make better choices to live a more modest life and choose to do simple things, as we start to make more money in life, that money will grant us more freedom instead of being a trap that holds us back in life. And with that, muchas gracias. Que tenga un buen día. Video 132. Nos vemos, chico. Motorcycle in the distance.